My name is Sarah, I'm 34 years old, and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. On the surface, my life looked perfect. A successful husband, a beautiful house with a white picket fence, 2 kids who laughed at dinner, and a marriage that everyone envied. But perfection is just a mask we wear when we're too afraid to show the cracks underneath. My husband, David, was a good man, everyone said so. He provided, he was present at school events, he told me I was capable. But somewhere between the compliments and the routine, I stopped feeling seen. I stopped feeling alive. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Conflict begins. It started on a Tuesday morning, the kind of ordinary day that changes everything without warning. David kissed my forehead before work, said, "You've got this, babe," and left me standing in the kitchen with a sink full of dishes and a heart full of words I couldn't say. "You've got this." I heard it so often it became white noise. "You're so capable, Sarah. You're so strong, Sarah." But what if I didn't want to be strong anymore? What if I wanted someone to ask me if I was okay instead of assuming I was? I met him 3 weeks later at a coffee shop downtown. Marcus. He wasn't looking for anything, and neither was I. At least that's what I told myself. He was sitting alone with a book, and when our eyes met, something shifted in the air between us. It wasn't attraction, not at first. It was recognition, like he could see the exhaustion I'd been hiding behind my smile. If you're connecting with this story, I'd love for you to click that subscribe button and help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Your support means everything to this community, and it takes just 1 second to join us. Building tension. We started talking, just talking, about books, about life, about the weight of expectations. Marcus was a photographer, divorced, no kids, living in a small apartment in Northeast Portland. He didn't have the perfect life I had, but he had something I'd lost: honesty. He wasn't afraid to say when he felt broken. He didn't pretend everything was fine. Our conversations became weekly coffee dates, then twice a week, then daily texts that made my phone feel like a live wire in my pocket. David never noticed. He was busy with work, with his promotions, with telling me how proud he was of how I managed everything. But he never asked what it cost me to manage it all. Marcus asked. "Are you happy, Sarah?" he said one afternoon, and the question hit me like a punch to the chest. No one had asked me that in years. Not David, not my mother, not my friends. Everyone assumed I was happy because I had everything I was supposed to want. I couldn't answer him. My throat closed up and tears burned behind my eyes. And I excused myself to the bathroom where I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. Escalation. The line between friendship and something else is thinner than people think. We never plan to cross it, but loneliness has a way of rewriting your moral compass. One evening, David worked late again, and Marcus invited me to see a photography exhibit downtown. I told myself it was innocent. I told myself I deserved one night where I felt interesting instead of just useful. The exhibit was in a converted warehouse, dim lighting casting shadows on black and white photographs of broken cities and forgotten people. Marcus stood close to me as we moved through the space, and when his hand brushed mine, I didn't pull away. We stopped in front of a photograph of a woman standing at a window, her face half in shadow. "That's how I see you," Marcus whispered, caught between the light and the dark. I should have left. I should have made an excuse and gone home to my husband and my kids and my perfect life. But instead, I turned to Marcus, and for the first time in years, I let myself be seen. Really seen. If this story is resonating with you, please hit the subscribe button now. We're working toward 5,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps us build this community together. Deepening conflict. Nothing physical happened that night, but something irreversible did. I drove home in a fog, my heart pounding, guilt and exhilaration fighting for space in my chest. David was already asleep when I got home, sprawled across our bed like he owned it. And I stood in the doorway watching him and feeling like a stranger in my own life. The text with Marcus intensified. Good morning messages that made me smile before my feet hit the floor. Late night conversations when David snored beside me, and I typed responses under the covers like a teenager. We talked about everything: dreams we'd abandoned, mistakes we'd made, the versions of ourselves we'd buried to fit into other people's expectations. "You deserve to be more than capable," Marcus wrote one night. You deserve to be cherished. I cried reading that message. Silent tears that soaked my pillow while my husband slept inches away, oblivious. 3 months into our friendship, or whatever it was, Marcus invited me to his apartment. Just to see his portfolio, he said. Just to spend time away from crowded coffee shops. I knew what I was doing when I said yes. I knew the cliff I was standing on, but I stepped forward anyway. The moment of choice. His apartment was exactly like him. Simple, honest, filled with light. Photographs covered the walls, moments captured and frozen, proof that beauty exists even in broken things. We sat on his couch with wine neither of us really drank, and the air between us hummed with everything we weren't saying. "Sarah," he said, my name soft in his mouth. "Tell me to stop, and I will." But I didn't tell him to stop. Instead, I leaned toward him, and when his lips met mine, it felt like coming up for air after being underwater my entire marriage. We kissed with the desperation of two people who'd been invisible for too long, and in that moment, nothing else existed. Not David, not my kids, not the vows I'd spoken 10 years ago in a church full of people who believed I'd be happy forever. We didn't go further that night. We stopped, breathless and guilty, and I left his apartment with my lipstick smudged and my heart in pieces. I drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice, hating myself and missing Marcus in equal measure. Your support helps this channel grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, click that button now and be part of reaching 5,000 subscribers. It takes just a second and means the world. Family confrontation. David noticed the next day, not because he was perceptive, but because I couldn't stop crying. I broke down in the kitchen while making breakfast, and he found me sobbing over scrambled eggs like my world was ending. Because it was. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern in his voice, his hands on my shoulders. "Sarah, talk to me. What happened?" And I wanted to tell him. God. I wanted to scream that I was drowning, and he'd been standing on the shore telling me how well I was swimming. But instead, I said I was tired. Just tired. Overwhelmed with the kids and the house and everything I was managing. "You're so capable," he said, pulling me into a hug. "You can handle anything, babe. I believe in you." I felt myself die a little in his arms. Discovery. I tried to stop seeing Marcus. I really did. I told him we needed space, that I needed to focus on my family, that what we were doing wasn't fair to anyone. He understood. He didn't fight me or guilt me or make it harder than it already was. He just said, "I'll be here if you need me." And that somehow made it worse. For 2 weeks, I tried to be the wife David thought I was. I cooked elaborate dinners. I initiated conversations. I smiled through family game nights while my heart ached for someone who wasn't there. But David didn't notice the difference. He just kept telling me how great I was doing, how proud he was, how lucky he was to have a wife who had everything together. Then my phone rang at midnight on a Thursday. Marcus's name lit up the screen, and my heart stopped. David stirred beside me, and I let it go to voicemail, my hands shaking. The voicemail was short. "I know you said you needed space, but I had to tell you this. I'm moving to Seattle next month. New job opportunity. I needed you to know before I disappeared." I listened to that message 17 times before dawn. Please take a moment to subscribe. We're so close to 5,000 subscribers, and your click helps us keep sharing these real, honest stories. Join us by hitting that subscribe button now. The betrayal revealed. I met Marcus one last time. I told David I was meeting my sister for lunch, a lie that came too easily, and I drove to the coffee shop where we'd first met. He was waiting for me, looking tired and sad and still somehow like the only person who'd ever really seen me. "Don't go," I said, the words escaping before I could stop them. "Sarah," he said gently, "you're married. You have kids. You have a life." "I have a cage," I whispered. We sat in silence, holding coffee we didn't drink, and then he took my hand across the table, just held it. And in that moment, my phone buzzed. A text from David. "Hey babe, your sister just called the house looking for you, said you weren't supposed to meet until next week. Everything okay?" The blood drained from my face. Marcus saw my expression and let go of my hand. He knows, I breathed. Confrontation at home. I drove home with my heart in my throat, rehearsing explanations that all sounded hollow. David was sitting in the living room when I walked in, his face unreadable. The kids were at his mother's house, he told me. Just the two of us. Who is he? David asked, his voice eerily calm. I could have lied. I could have made up a story about a friend, about a mistake in scheduling, but I was so tired of lying, to him and to myself. His name is Marcus, I said, and he's someone who listens to me. The fight that followed was brutal. Not because David yelled, but because he didn't. He sat there, his face crumbling, asking me questions I couldn't answer without destroying him further. Did you sleep with him? Do you love him? How long has this been going on? Each question was a knife, and I wielded them all against the man I'd promised to love forever. I never cheated on you, I finally said. Not physically, but emotionally. I've been gone for a long time, David, and you never noticed. He stared at me like I was a stranger. You never told me you were unhappy. I've been screaming, I said, my voice breaking. You just called it strength. If you're invested in how this story ends, help us reach 5,000 subscribers by clicking the subscribe button. Your support fuels these honest conversations we're building here. Family fallout. My mother-in-law called me 2 days later. David had told her everything, and her disappointment was a physical weight through the phone. How could you do this to him? To your children? You have everything, Sarah. Everything. I listened to her judgment and felt nothing. I was numb. My sister was gentler, but equally confused. I don't understand, she said. David is a good man. He loves you. Why would you risk everything for some guy you barely know? Because Marcus knew me, I wanted to say, better than anyone. But I kept silent. David moved into the guest room. We existed as polite strangers, co-parenting our children who sensed something was wrong but were too young to understand. My daughter asked why Daddy was sleeping in the other room, and I told her sometimes grown-ups need space. The lie tasted like ash. Marcus left for Seattle. He sent me one final text. I hope you find whatever you're looking for, Sarah. You deserve to be happy, even if it's not with me. I cried for hours, mourning something that never really was. The revelation. 3 weeks after Marcus left, I found something that changed everything. I was cleaning out David's office, looking for tax documents, when I found a journal tucked in his desk drawer. I shouldn't have read it. I knew better. But my name was on the first page, and I couldn't look away. The entries spanned 2 years. Pages and pages of David's thoughts, his fears, his inadequacies. He wrote about how he felt I was slipping away but didn't know how to reach me. He wrote about how he buried himself in work because home felt like a place where he was failing. He wrote about watching me and feeling like he was losing a battle he didn't know how to fight. I tell her she's capable because I don't know what else to say. One entry read, I'm terrified she'll realize she doesn't need me at all. I read that journal cover to cover, and with each page, my anger transformed into something more complicated. We'd both been drowning, just in different oceans, neither of us knowing the other was going under. Subscribe now to stay with us on this journey. We're building toward 5,000 subscribers, and every person here matters. Click that button and join our community. Climax. I confronted David that night with the journal in my hands. His face went white when he saw it. You read it, he said flatly. You were suffering too, I said, tears streaming. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? He shot back, and suddenly we were both crying, all the walls we'd built crumbling at once. We talked until dawn. Really talked, for the first time in years. About resentment and loneliness and all the ways we'd failed each other. About how we'd stopped being partners and become just people who lived in the same house, managing life instead of living it. I don't know if we can fix this, David said as the sun came up. I don't know if I can forgive what happened with Marcus. I don't know if I can forgive what didn't happen between us, I replied. Open ending. That was 6 months ago. David and I are still together, technically, still in the same house, still co-parenting, still trying to figure out if there's anything left to save. Some days are better than others. Some days I see glimpses of who we used to be before life got so heavy. Other days I lie awake at night thinking about Marcus and wondering what if. We started couples therapy. It's hard, painful work, digging through years of buried resentment and unspoken hurt. Our therapist says we have to decide if we're rebuilding or just prolonging the inevitable. I don't have an answer yet. My kids seem happier now that David and I aren't pretending everything is fine. There's something freeing about honesty, even when it's messy. I haven't spoken to Marcus since he left for Seattle. Sometimes I look at his Instagram, photographs of the Pacific Northwest, gray skies and green trees and images that make my chest ache. He looks happy. I'm glad one of us is. David asked me last week if I'm still in love with him. I couldn't answer. I don't know if what we have is love or just history, obligation dressed up as commitment, but I'm trying to figure it out. For our kids, if not for us. Here's what I know. I'm not capable of everything. I'm not always strong. Sometimes I need someone to save me instead of telling me I can save myself. And saying that out loud might be the bravest thing I've ever done. Before we finish, please subscribe and help us reach that 5,000 subscriber goal. Your click makes all the difference. Join this community by hitting that subscribe button right now. Call to action. So now I'm asking you, the person listening to this story, what would you do in my place? Would you stay and fight for a marriage that might be beyond repair? Would you walk away and start over, consequences be damned? Would you regret the man who saw you, or the vows you spoke when you were too young to know what forever really meant? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Tell me I'm not alone in this mess. Tell me there's a way through to the other side. Or tell me I'm a fool for trying. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Click that red button and help us reach 5,000 subscribers. Your support means everything. We're building something real here. A place where we can share the stories no one else wants to hear. The messy, complicated truth of being human. What happens next? I honestly don't know. Maybe David and I will find our way back to each other. Maybe we'll realize we've been mourning something that died a long time ago. Maybe I'll always wonder about Marcus and the life I didn't choose. But I'm done pretending to be capable of everything. I'm done being strong when I'm breaking. And maybe, just maybe, that's the first step toward actually being okay. So tell me, what would you do in my place? Because right now, I'm standing at a crossroads, and I have no idea which path leads home. Subscribe, share your story, and let's figure this out together. Click that button now. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers, and you could be the one who helps us get there. What would you do?